And look what happened. I stopped going to the mikvah. So I'd probably be living in Svat right now if I kept going in a cave. Okay. So ready to roll?
Yep.
It starts with Abraham was not commanded about priyah uncovering. You have that?
B'ma ispera? No. Can you just repeat that again?
Abraham was not commanded about priyah uncovering. When he entered his with this tam, complete one, and within its rungs called together yam, sea. Thus tamim, wholehearted. Afterwards, Abraham ascended, entering within, linking with supernal right.
Okay, got it. Abraham lo ispekad al priyah.
Okay, why don't you read that whole paragraph?
Okay, Abraham lo ispekad al priyah v'kad ol lahaitam. V'lego dargin delay de ikrin kachada yam. V'hainu tamim labasar istalak Abraham v'ol lego v'skishar im yamina ilah.
Okay. So just share a little bit with you what's going on. In halachic terms, there's two parts of the circumcision. And there's some additional parts. The third part is actually very controversial, it's the mitzitza, but let's talk about the first two parts. The first part is the Mila, and the second part is the priyah, which in ancient times, and in some select minority of communities even till today, they do it in two stages. First, they make the certain cut, and then they pull back another membrane and reveal that as well. That's called the priyah. So according to the rabbis, when Avraham was commanded to do the Mila, he was only commanded to do the Mila. And then later on, the priyah was required as well. And the Zohar is going to make that distinction that Avraham just had the Mila and Yaakov also had the priyah. Okay, so that's the background to that. So each one of them represents a certain klipa, a certain shell, exteriority, lessening of the light, inaccessibility, a lack of the ability to be transformed. We know the bris Mila is both the Yesod, which is the power of attraction that both leads a person to their downfall, and also is the ability to procreate, which represents creativity and transformation of the greatest kind. In Zohar and Kabbalistic terms, Kol means the all. Everything goes into the Yesod, meaning all of the other sphirot, particularly from Chesed through Yesod, are manifesting in Yesod. In that sense, Yesod and Malchus, which couple with one another, have something in common, that they represent the totality of that which comes before them. In general, that which is lower contains that which is higher, but in particular, Yesod is the Kol. And because of that, that's where there needs to be a circumcision, both as a covenant, which is the covenant of the circumcision, which is a form of creating a bond that we are connected to, on the covenant that you have etched into our flesh, so to speak. And also in terms of, like the Rambam says, as a reminder or a lessening of just physical pleasure so that we can mitigate. I don't really think on the medical, I talked to a doctor about this, he doesn't think it really makes a difference in terms of the Rambam's claim, but I understand the Rambam more metaphysically than kind of medically, in terms of the Rambam says part of the purpose of the bris Mila is to lessen the pleasure in that area so that a person can control their appetite in that area more. That may not turn out to be a medical fact, but it could still be a conceptual idea that we're like, if that's where God chose to make the mark of this distinction, we should be careful in that area. Again, it's there's if you like comedy, listen to Elon Gold. He has a great piece about a negotiation between Moses and God about making the cut. Yes, Yassi, Reb Yassi.
Okay, just I understand the concept of Yesod being basically in the genitals, and Malchut it can be often sometimes it says Malchut is bepeh, Malchut is in the mouth. Okay, so that or Malchut is on the let's say
Receiving side.
I'm sorry.
It's often the feminine, the receiving side.
Right, but that there's of course that the Malchut is separate or different or encapsulated
and
within.
Sometimes in the male version, the Malchut is the corona.
Right. Yes, I'm glad. Yeah, thank you for bringing it up sensitively. But it leads to the problem here. Where would hypothetically Malchut be for a female Jew?
Exactly where you think it would be.
Okay, you think that is that actually ever spelled out, or is that just?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Well, it at some point you could tell me where it is in Jewish text. That would be great to know. You don't have to do it now. You don't have to do it now. But if you could just, because I'm sure someday when I'm explaining this, somebody will say, see, it isn't fair. It isn't fair.
Referred to basically as the partner, the Shechina, that which receives the male, which is obvious anatomically. That's pretty obvious what it is. And that's said over and over again.
Okay.
In fact, so much so that one of the critiques of the Zohar is that it's sexually obsessed, because of that. So, and the answer is there's actually a debate in contemporary scholarship amongst Zohar scholars about if that's actually quite the opposite of what the Zohar means, meaning the Zohar is actually saying that on a plain level, sexuality is just not a good thing, and we have to recontextualize sexuality and bring it only into the divine realm, and whatever is just physically happening is just not the real intimacy. Or perhaps no, we're really are elevating the human sexual experience and making it more divine. So there's I'm oversimplifying one of the current kind of scholarly debates about the nature of this relationship between Yesod and Malchut when you talk about anatomy and actual physical intercourse versus just kind of the sephirotic intimacy. There's a range and a debate about that that's still going on. Okay. And generally, just to keep it simple, we're not just really talking about human beings. We don't want to abuse these words, even though they could be, in my belief. I'm kind of on the side where it says the Zohar says it depends. What are we talking about? What's the nature of the relationship? And that would define whether the Yesod and the Malchut in any given relationship are sanctified or not. And I think that's pretty clear. I don't know why it's such a debate, but it is. But the mistake of just bandying about these words too lightly is because you don't want to use the Zohar as a pickup line. You don't want to overly simplify it, and then its meaning is lost, or it will be the opposite of its meaning if it's just used kind of as some type of kind of cheap trick. Okay, let's go on. Wholehearted with God, surely. Just as he is tamim, wholehearted, a single totality. So you too should be complete, should be tamim, which is, by the way, such a great line, which is what is the wholeness? Tamim here is translated as wholeness, but also a tam is not a multifaceted person, which, by the way, there's a something that always troubled me.
You'll have to wait.
Which is this idea that the Achdut of the Bore, the unity of the Creator, is the type of unity that is of utmost simplicity, which is really what the Zohar is getting at here. The reason why it's simple, now we're always thinking simple is not good. Somebody calls you a simpleton, it means you're kind of a fool. But what it really means is that there's a unity. It's one. It's not just like a little bit of this, a little bit of that. You know what the problem is we have with people who are too smart? There's no center. It's almost like they say what you want to hear. They say what's going to get them a specific outcome. There's almost like, who are they? Where's the tamness of it? Where's the wholeness? When it says Yaakov ish tam, it means two things, and it's the same thing. It means he's a simple guy, and what you see is what you get. And later on, he becomes one of the most complicated and difficult people in business. So either what's happening is he's transformed from simple to complex, from naive to jaded, and he'll play ball with the hardest players. Or alternatively, because he was one, because he knew his oneness, he knew the center of his tamness, his completeness, he was like God. What is God? God is one. All the parts, all the spirit of God, you have these people who don't know anything about Kabbalah, so they're saying, oh, Kabbalah has different spherot, so it's a multiplicity God. Well, actually, you should know, there's one God, everything is one, there's no multiplicity, it's tam, it's oneness. So that's kind of a play on this kind of concept of the Achdut habore is the pashut betachlit hapshitut. He's using the word tam for that. Okay, and then he's using Jacob, who is a representation of that in this thing. Okay, so tamim, wholehearted with God, surely, just as he is tamim, wholehearted, a single totality, so you should be tamim, wholehearted with him, surely. How does a person become tamim?
Tam yam.
What is tam? Tam yam, ocean, right? Tam is whole, yam is ocean. Tam complete, as we have said. Okay,
Yam kal inun dargan kadishan delay ikron yam.
Yam, all of its holy rungs are called yam, sea.
The lowest parsha minay alaomet. Uf an kegavna da.
Two, like this or similarly.
La da minach dargan nuchran uliskishra besamim.
Remove from yourself the foreign levels, the foreign rungs, and linking with tam, and instead connect to the wholeness, the oneness.
Lemeheve bach dargan kadishan raza diyam bedarga kadisha tam.
So that you may possess holy bechinot, levels, the mystery of the sea, the holy rung of tam, of wholeness, to receive aleph. Go on.
Lakablo aleph raza de Yaakov.
To receive aleph, the mystery of Yaakov.
Barnash itzrich lameve b'chol yoma tam yam kegavna da mamash.
Every day, a person must be a tam yam, corresponding to this pattern precisely. Why don't we read notes 50 and 51? So please.
50 on Abraham was not commanded about priyah. When God commanded him to circumcise himself, this involved only the first stage of circumcision, cutting and removing the foreskin, not the second, known as priyah, uncovering the corona. The first stage corresponds to Shechina, the second to Yesod, the divine Yesod, the divine phallus. So when Abraham entered the covenant or divine realm, he entered Shechina, known as Tam, complete one, and all her angelic rungs, which are known as Yam. See, together these two words spell tamim, wholehearted, which explains why God told Abraham, walk in my presence and be tamim. Afterward, Abraham ascended higher, attaining the rung of chesed, the divine right arm. On the two stages of circumcision, see an above note. On Abraham not being commanded concerning the priyah, see the Talmud in Yevamos and elsewhere. 51, with Havaya, surely, just as Shechina is united with her angelic forces, as symbolized by the combined elements of the word tamim, wholehearted, so each person should be unified and tamim. Thereby he resembles Shechina and is with Havaya. Then he should strive to imitate the union of Shechina with her partner, receiving illumination from Aleph, signifying Tiferes, known as the mystery of Yaakov. See the preceding two notes.
Okay, great. Let's continue.
Hashta parish man the parish b'Mesivta.
Just now in the yeshiva, in the academy, an explainer or elucidator has explained
The Sihara Kadisha Shapira Ihu Bechivaru.
that this beautiful holy moon is white
The Kolgavnin Menatzitzon Ba Umarukaman.
with all the colors sparkling within her, and it's embroidered.
Ihu Kahahu Shapiru Bechivaru the Shem Shamamash.
And she has the exact same fine whiteness as the sun.
Ubahahu Yama Dila Go Shibin Shinin.
And in her sea, within 70 years,
Nafkad Nuna Chada Va'apik Mine Govan Techelis.
a certain fish comes out of it, from which is taken out the techelis, the blue or the turquoise.
The Ihi Natla Govan Da Visakinas Le Vischafia Labar Bahai Govan.
She takes this dye and prepares it and covers herself outwardly with this color. Let's do notes 52 and 53, Zev.
The two just now in the academy, Rabbi Eli conveys a teaching from the Heavenly Academy about Shechina, symbolized by the moon. She reflects the white of Chesed along with the other Sephirotic colors and is illumined by Tiferet, symbolized by the sun. 53, in that sea of hers. Shechina is symbolized by the sea. The certain fish is the chilazon, which has been identified as the Murex trunculus snail, from whose gland is extracted a dye known as tcheles, often translated as blue, but technically referring to purple, bluish purple, or violet. In Numbers 15, the Israelites are commanded to make tzitzis, a tassel on the hem of their garments, and to entwine a thread dyed with tcheles in the tassel. Eventually, this commandment evolved into the requirement of a special garment with tassels or fringes attached to its four corners. See Numbers, make tzitzis. And in the Talmud, it says, the chilazon resembles the sea in its bodily color, or in the color of its blood, and in its shape resembles a fish. It ascends from the sea once every 70 years, and with its blood one dyes tchelet. So tcheles, it's very expensive. On the chilazon, see several sources, including elsewhere in the Zohar. On the association of tcheles with Shechina, see Sifrez Numbers 115 in the name of Rabbi Meir. Whoever fulfills the commandment of wearing tzitzis is as though he greeted the face of Shechina. For tcheles, the color of the thread resembles the sea, and the sea resembles the sky, and the sky resembles the throne of glory. And then there are several other sources that are relevant.
That's one of the most famous things about the tcheles. That last quote. They all connect you successively, ultimately to the throne of glory. Okay, let's continue on top of 72.
Lav Dahai Govan Lavusha Dila.
Not that this color is her garment. For after all, her garment is linen and purple.
Aval Chupa Delavar Hai Govanhu.
But the outer covering is this color.
Kegavna da hava mashkana the kule b'shafiru murukamalago.
Similarly with the dwelling, all of which was beautifully embroidered within.
Ulabasar ufarsu beged kalil techelas.
And afterwards, as the verse says, they shall spread over it a garment of pure tcheles, blue.
My taima begin deschos yam da ismitzulas yam.
Why? Because beneath the sea are the depth of the sea.
Kalal dechar v'nukva be'islan eina.
The wholeness of male and female.
Be'islan eina bisha l'istakla.
And then they have an evil eye to gaze or look.
Be'kad mistaklan zamen le'einayu govan techela.
And when they stare, the color of techeles, this aquamarine blue,
V'lo yachla einayu l'shalta.
confronts their eyes, and their eyes can't win over it.
Ve'ihi istakanas lago b'chol gevanin merukamen katkayos.
He's arrayed in all colors, fittingly embroidered.
Mis Tachman La'arba Citrin La'alma.
Ranging to the four corners of the world.
Kigavna da Barnosh de Lavish Tzitzis.
Similarly, a person who wears tzitzis
Is Avid B'chol Yom Tamim.
becomes tamim, wholehearted.
Tam Ba'arba Kanafayim Misukanan Katkayos.
Tam, complete by four corners fittingly prepared.
Yam Bahut Chelas Denuna de Shivan Dargan de Yama.
Prepared, yam, sea, by that cheles, blue of the fish of the sea.
Sitra Bisha Kad Istakal Bahai Barnash Lo Yachilav Oshale Be'ena Bisha.
When the evil side gazes upon this person, it will not be able to harm him with the evil eye.
Kedain Ihu Tam Yam.
Then he is a tam yam.
Im Hashem Elokav Mamash Sikunachada Ila Ela Vilasat.
True alignment, sea above, she above, and he below. Not see, she. Okay, let's read the notes, 54 and 55.
This is awesome. 54. Not that this color is her garment. The primary garment of Shechina is described in Proverbs 31, which portrays the ideal woman, but her outer garment is colored tcheles, blue. Beneath Shechina lie threatening powers known as the depth of the sea, who gaze with an evil eye, but the color tcheles neutralizes their malevolent gaze. The phrase depths of the sea appears in Micah 7:19. You will cast all their sins into the depths of the sea. See Psalms, elsewhere in the Zohar, and specifically Idra Rabbah. The verse in Numbers actually describes how the ark was prepared for carrying when the dwelling was dissembled and the Israelites were to set forth on the march. It reads slightly differently than the quotation above. They shall spread a garment of pure blue above it and insert its poles. And 55 says on a person who's wearing tzitzis becoming tamim by wearing the thread dyed with tcheles on the four corners of one's garments, a person becomes tamim, wholehearted, and thereby resembles Shechina.
Okay, great.
Lebasar is Talakas.
But just to give like a little bit of a background to what we just read about the Mishkan and the covering on the Aron, we've been talking about this again and again. The Mishkan we mentioned like 2 weeks ago was supposed to look like the cosmos, but both the physical cosmos and the Sephirot as well. So we've got the sun and moon, we got the Chelet, the white, the blue, the ocean. We got nature and the divine version of nature known as the Ohel and the Aron HaBrit, all kind of really sephirotically fitting into this thing, okay? And of course we have the begadim, the levushim, the tzitzis, the tcheles thread, the tam yam. Then she ascends within supernal rungs.
Uf hachi barnash is stalak ihilovasa betfilin.
So too a person ascends afterwards with tefillin with supernal rungs. So this is going to help us as a halachic discussion of what do you do first? We know we put on our talis first and our tefillin later. It's a question because the reason why you would put on your talis first is tadir v'she'eno tadir, right? The talis you put on more regularly than the tefillin. Or Milan Bekodesh Ve'en Maridin, we elevate in sanctity, so that the tefillin, that might be why we put on the shal yad before the shal rosh. So there's all these kind of halachic Talmudic principles, and here we have this kind of Zoharic principle. So which is aligned with this concept of Milan Bekodesh, elevating in kedusha, going from one rung to a higher rung. Okay.
Ma'aldat tamim ti Hashem alakacha.
Surely, thus you shall be tamim, wholehearted with the Lord your God.
Surely at
the same time, in the same moment, the Rebbe liked to use those words for Mashiach coming. She is arrayed above, and that person is arrayed below. Rabbi Eli said, all these here are similarly arrayed. So each one is tamim, wholehearted with God.
Val razada bamidbar hazeh yitamu.
Corresponding to this mystery is the verse, in this desert yitamu, which comes from you shall die, but it also comes from where you play on words, and its most hyper literal reading is you should become a tam, you should become complete.
Yitemrun dekat itmar levish itmar.
Now, if you say that when it was spoken, it was tended harmfully,
Hachi hu vadai.
certainly so, meaning it does mean its literal meaning as well.
Dahavalon lemeheve kol chad tamim im Hashem ba'ara kadisha.
Or they should have been tamim, wholehearted with the Lord, with Havaya in the Holy Land,
Aser da Hashem shori
place
tamon.
where Havaya dwells,
Lemeheve apen ba'apen kachada ime.
face one with him, together with him.
Bahashta kol chad have tamim b'madbra dalavar. Aser
Now,
rachel tamim.
each one is tamim, wholehearted in this desert on the outside. They didn't get into the inside, which is Eretz Israel.
Delo yistakal anpen ba'anpen b'hadi lemeheve im Hashem kadkayos.
Far from there, not gazing face to face along with him, being with God fittingly. It didn't get,
V'sham yamusu kamo dechamisum da'avdim b'chol yoma.
and there they shall die as you saw them doing every day, which remember we said before, they saw the people who died in the desert dying and being reborn with a new body every day. Okay, let's read the notes, 55 through 57.
55 we read. 56, then she ascends. Shechina ascends to the higher spheros. Similarly, upon donning tefillin, a person is illuminated by higher spheros. According to a rabbinic tradition, God himself wears tefillin, in which is inscribed, "Who is like your people Israel, one nation on the earth," from Shul. It says that in Brachos. On the significance of tefillin, see Azriel of Gerona and others. All these here, all the souls of the generation of the desert are arrayed here in the Garden of Eden. The verse in Numbers reads, "In this desert, Yitamu, they shall come to an end, and there they shall die." Rabbi Eli transforms the declaration of doom into a promise of fulfillment by construing Yitamu as they shall become complete. Of course, one could easily object that the verse was intended harmfully, but Rabbi Eli explains that it still implies something less than ideal. If the generation had proven more worthy, they would have entered the promised land and encountered God face to face. Instead, they inhabit the desert outside the land. Apparently, in the Garden of Eden, these souls re-experience certain aspects of the desert. The concluding sentence refers to the daily symbolic death of members of this generation as described above. They saw people digging their graves and dying immediately and coming back to life in radiant holy bodies.
Okay, great. Thank you. Let's read the bottom of 73. Happy to share.
We're continuing or another note? No.
Yeah, we're continuing. Happy is your
Zak-
share.
Zakah chulakhan chavraya kadishan.
Happy is your share, holy companions,
Dezachisa l'chol hai.
that you've attained all this.
Hane trei ma'arse acharon and dilchu.
These two caves are enough for you.
Delosh tishkechu kol das tamon.
Since you won't find all of this there,
The inun go mesifta de Moshe yasa
they
mirafik.
are within the Academy of Moses, sitting far away.
Maldak se b'Moshe anav mi'od mikol ha'adam.
Concerning this, it is written regarding Moses, page 74, more humble than any other person. 174a.
Univia ila kabilon lemesifta delay.
Supreme Prophet has welcomed them to his academy. Let's read the note 58.
58. These two caves referred to previously. See above notes 6 and 17. Apparently, Rabbi Eli tells the companions that they need not enter any more such caves, because the souls of the generation of the desert are elsewhere, in the Academy of Moses, seated far from his overwhelming brilliance. Moses is so humble that he has invited them there. On the Academy of Moses, see above at notes 38 and 41. The full verse in Numbers reads, "The man Moses was very humble, more than any other person on the face of the earth." It is quoted slightly differently above. For various interpretations of this paragraph, see Mikdash Melech, the Sulam, the Matuk Midvash, or Yakar remarks that its wording is problematic.
Hmm.
We don't know what the problem is, but
Yeah. Well, I'm no Oryakar, but I thought it was problematic also.
sure.
Something a little bit funny there, but I can't, the Ramak knows exactly why it's problematic. Me, I can't put my finger on it. Okay, we're going to continue. Third line from the day that they began
Miyoma the Shari Lamechme Kolda.
until
Arahisha
7 days.
Arahisha the Shiva Yoman. V'holo hava mistakman b'hai ol makom.
And in fact, they didn't look or consider anything in this world at all. It was 7 days they were in another world. Okay, Rabbi Eloi said to them,
Amalon Rabbi Loi Zakon Kadishan Emalachu Milan Nishmatan.
"Oh, holy virtuous ones, I will tell you the things you heard.
Mila Kadma Kad Tindaun Medidu de Mishchasa Bishma Galifa Mafarash.
As for the first one, when you know the measure of the span of the engraved explicit name,
Tindaun de Betzalo Rivia Ihu de Nahorani Loan.
you'll know that Betzalel is the fourth of the supernal lights.
Tiksiv Amalios Ruach Elokim B'Chachma Uvesuna Uvedas.
As is written, I have filled him with the spirit of Hashem, with wisdom, with understanding, with knowledge.
Mandalo Istakal Chame Be'Ispesach.
Whoever doesn't gaze sees and is open, right? That's the mischief. You don't look, then you get to see.
Mandalo Istakal Be'inun Tlas Milan Timiran Malaela Malasata.
Whoever does not gaze at those three concealed things, right? These are the things in the Chagiga. Who is above and who is below, etc.
Zaman Iolis Patcha Ba'araisa Lopakcha Ainanba.
Is destined to be opened by Torah and to open his eyes through her. Okay, let's read those notes. 59.
59, from the day they began. By now, the companions have been exploring the Garden of Eden for a week, and they are so immersed that they've forgotten all about the mundane world. See above in note 36. The way of mortals has been obliterated from our memory, and everything we've seen on this mountain is astounding.
Oh.
60. I will tell you the things you heard. Rabbi Eli explains to the companions most of the cryptic statements that they heard from a voice within a palace. Above it notes 30 and 31. The measure of the span of the engraved explicit name alludes to the sephirotic significance of the name Havaya, called the explicit name. According to the Kabbalah, the name Havaya symbolizes the entire sephirotic spectrum. The point-like Yud symbolizes the primordial point of Chachma, while its upper tip symbolizes the hidden realm, Keser. The first Hey, often a feminine marker, symbolizes the divine mother Bina. The Vav, whose numerical value is 6, symbolizes Tiferes, and the 5 spheres surrounding him, Chesed through Yesod. The second Hey symbolizes Shechina. The voice's utterance, Betzalel is fourth of the supernal lights, means that Betzalel was illumined by 3 supernal spheros, Chachma, Bina, and Das. Das is rarely mentioned in the Zohar. Here it may be seen as taking the place of Kesed, which is too concealed to be included. The verse in Exodus demonstrates this. I have filled him, B'chachma uvi tzfuna uvadas, with wisdom, with understanding, and with knowledge. On the spherotic significance of the letters of Havaya, see a number of sources, including Idrizuta.
Thank you, Zeb. Okay.
Ilone de Samne Sere, Shidrasa de Barnash.
The trees of 18, a person's spine.
Katkafif Kame Mare,
When it bends before its Lord,
Yizko Fiyiskian Laschias Messiah.
it will stand erect and arise at the revival of the dead.
Elo Kafif Bemodim is Avid Chivya.
If it does not bend at Modim, it becomes a serpent. We did this a few weeks ago, very similar to this.
The Lasle Takuma Lahu Zimna.
Nothing resurrected at that time.
Man the all bain train Kruven Lago.
Whoever enters 2 keruvim, whoever enters a distance of 2 doors within the synagogue cleaves to his Lord, and his will is fulfilled.
Man the Ma'ayim Etzlose V'Stakel Ba'Richik Meru'usi Deshail.
Whoever speculates upon his prayer and considers it is far from his wish that he sought. Okay, let's stop. These are all references to things. I'm learning brachos, so almost all of this is in brachos. Obviously, in general, brachos has a lot of agadata about prayer and the synagogue and things like that. Like I've been telling you nonstop that the Zohar and other Kabbalistic texts have a pretty good kind of ability to make sense of many very strange, difficult passages in the Talmud, and vice versa to some degree. So let's take a look at what these notes say, starting from 62.
I think first we have 61.
Oh, you didn't do 61. Okay, that's a small.
Whoever does not gaze, see Chagiga. Whoever contemplates or gazes upon 4 things, better for him if he had not come into the world. What is above, what is below, what was before, and what will come after. Here, Rabbi Eli mentions 3 concealed things, apparently combining 2 of these 3 questions into one. 62, on the tree of 18, rabbinic anatomy enumerates 18 vertebrae in the spine. According to Bava Kama, after 17 years, a person's spine turns into a serpent. This refers to one who does not bow while reciting modem. The prayer modem we thankfully acknowledge is part of the Amida and acknowledges God's divinity, miraculous power, and eternal compassion. Traditionally, one bows both at the beginning and end of the prayer. Here, the Zohar draws on the comment by Tosfos on this Talmudic passage in Bava Kama. There are some who explain, in accordance with what is said in the Midrash, that there is a bone in a person's spine from which he will be formed, i.e. resurrected in the time to come. And that bone is so hard and strong that it cannot be burned by fire, and now that bone turns into a serpent. It is not received in the time to come. And then there are a number of citations there.
Including brachot.
Including brachos.
Okay.
Does it explain what it means, the Ma'ayin Betzlose? In the footnotes?
We're gonna get to there. Yeah, probably.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
if it doesn't, we'll talk about it, but because that's the later, that's 64, I think.
Okay.
So read 63, Zeb.
On 63 is whoever enters to Keruvim. Rabbi Eli explains this by referring to a passage in Brachos in the name of Rav Chisda. A person should always enter 2 doors into the synagogue. Do you imagine 2 doors? Rather say a distance of 2 doors and then pray. By entering some distance into the shul and not staying in the very back, a person demonstrates his devotion and his prayer will be answered. On Keruvim, his doors are opening. See Genesis 3:24, where the Keruvim blocked the entrance to the Garden of Eden. He drove out the humans and placed the...
I just want to show you how this thesis works so simply, and I don't want to say irrefutably because anybody could refute whatever they want, but the Talmud is trying to say, don't pray by the exit because it looks like you just want to leave, right? So the question is, why does it say enter into 2 doors? Most synagogues only have 1 door. Some, like ours, happen to have 2 doors. So the answer is what it means to say the equivalent of that amount of space, which is fine. Okay, that's typical Gemara. But the question still is why the words 2 doors? And any Gemara teacher will ask that, and they'll come up with an answer. Well, here's a very simple answer because it's just pretty much in the Zohar. A door represents an entryway. A second door represents a deeper entrance, meaning you're not just showing that you don't want to run away. It's meaning you're going into the next You entered into the prayer, and then you're re-entering into a deeper level. It's the rungs, it's the bechinot, it's the kavanah. And the keruvim, why? Because the keruvim are not just the metaphor for like the Holy of Holies, the place of the Shechina. They're also appeared on the entranceway. They also appeared at certain critical places to go from one place to another. So it's kind of simple, you know. Anyway, Baruch Atah Noilad Melech Olam Shehakol Neh B'Dvarav.
Right.
And thank you, Peter. Can't forget Peter. God and Peter. In that order.
Is it fair to say that when you have an angel of some kind at the entranceway, that it's pretty much always a cherub?
Not necessarily, but that it does say the keruvim at the doors of the opening. You know, it does say that by the Garden of Eden.
But yeah, sure.
David, this is your favorite stuff. We've been doing chagiga and brachot and all that, the wild stuff. Okay, let's do the last note because that's what Ben also asked about.
Whoever speculates upon his prayer, expecting it to be fulfilled because it was offered sincerely or at length, whoever does so will find his prayer unanswered and his wish unfulfilled. See in brachas once again what Rashi has to say about a certain passage there. But yeah, it doesn't actually answer Ben's question.
Okay, so let's take a look at it again. What was your question, Ben?
No, I just wanted to know what he explained it meant when you sort of examine your prayer. Is it like,
great,
God doesn't want to be put under pressure? Is it like you don't understand?
Yes. Thank you for asking that. Because it's a very important question. So this is the Talmud. The Talmud says contradiction, plain out contradiction. A lot of people are struggling to answer it. Who kol ha'ma'ayin b'tfilato ba l'ka'ov leiv. Whoever is too into his prayer, and we'll get to what that means. I mean, too slow. He says actually slow or sincere. I mean, really, the Carlebach Shul, we're going to be. Maybe if we daven quicker, we would stop being so depressed. You know, that's I think shot. Okay, that's one shot. Yeah, maybe Yossi, you're with me.
Maybe if we would. Stop
I'm
being
controlling
so
myself
if we hurry
here.
up and daven quicker, God would be like, "Come on, guys, just get a life. Like, move it along. Like enough already." But that's not really what it is. The Gemara says, "Iyun tefillah," the problematic iyun tefillah, is when you're like testing God to say, God, you better give this to me or I'm going to judge you. Okay. It's like the cancel culture on God. Like if God doesn't deliver what I prayed for, I'm going to have some serious attitude towards him.
Maybe even just the idea that like my kavana, the amount of kavana I put in, it's like a divine vending machine. I should get out like what I put in.
Yes, it's like a combination. You press the right buttons, you say the right things, and you have it coming to you. The only problem is there's another Gemara that says just the opposite, that you need to be, that iyun tefillah is a wonderful thing. So it could be that the same word means similar but different things, like iyun tefillah in the positive sense could be somebody has a lot of kavanah, but they don't necessarily have the concrete expectations. That's one answer. That's the standard answer, one of the standard answers. Comes this interesting Zohar and says, and calls it a speculate. We know that the Zohar doesn't like either of the translations, not the one that it's bad, not the one that it's good. Definitely not what Danny Matt's bringing down here. Not that it's Danny's fault. Danny's just translating stuff that's in the Gemara and the commentaries in the Gemara. He's fine in that way. He's actually Danny knows his stuff. But what it is referencing back to the other Mishnah, the one in Chagiga that we quoted earlier, about things that the speculative things, there's certain speculative things that as much as we believe in the study of Kabbalah, Maisa Mekava, Maisa Bereshis, whatever names you give it, there are certain things that David is an expert in, David Newton and his friends, that were just like, I don't know, they're off limits to the rest of us. We're not Mala Mila, Mala Mata. What's below, what's above, what came before, so to speak. Now, there's a lot of questions of what exactly is wrong with those questions. But the bottom line is either they might refer to some type of competing, if you buy into like the type of analysis that Rachel Elior gave a number of years back she gave one of the greatest talks about kind of reading into the story of the four sages that entered into the Pardes, kind of her research into the Dead Sea Scrolls. It was brilliant. It was, David, you remember that?
This was who?
This was Rachel Elior
Mhm.
at the Day of Kabbalah like 4 years ago. So I didn't agree with her, but I was like, whoa, that is one of the most interesting and fantastic lectures I've ever heard. And then I actually kind of went back afterwards and looked into it. And I was like, I disagree with her a lot less after thinking about it, because it was so like new to me that I was like, whoa. But she rereads a lot of that particular Gemara Chagiga as a clash between the rabbis and not the esoteric part of Judaism, but the esoteric part of Judaism that was the purveyance of the Bnei Tzadok, of who she thinks as the author of the Dead Sea Scrolls, the Sons of Light, all that stuff. And she believed that the rabbis didn't want to just cut it out completely. They wanted to, like, you could go in and not come out, like the other three that entered into Pardes. One went crazy, one committed, one died, and one became a heretic. The famous Elisha, and only Rabbi Kiva nichlas b'shalom v'yatsa b'shalom. So in that's what we're talking about here. Again, like that type of speculation. So it's either another competing type of thing that's happening. It could be perhaps too magical in its conception of prayer. Like here's like Zev said, the vending machine, like the divine vending machine. Because the truth is the problem with the Sefirot is they become mechanistic. For some people, some of the clashes within the schools of Kabbalah are the mechanistic versus kind of the quantum mechanics versus the Newtonian mechanics of the Sefirot, to put it into kind of illegible terms that you think you understand. Sorry about that. The illegible word, like thinking, oh yeah, I know about quantum mechanics and Newtonian physics, and therefore I understand the debate about the nature of the mechanical elements of the sphere. So whoever speculates upon his prayer and considers it is as far from his wish that he sought is also a play on whoever doesn't see sees, right? Because it's like if you think you can see the thing, then you can't see the thing. If you speculate on the thing, then your prayers, you're not even praying. So it's like, it's this kind of mystical paradox. As soon as you get it, and there's another great Kabbalistic thing, is like, Megala tefach u'mechaset tefachayim, which means you reveal a handbreadth and you conceal two handbreadths, which means essentially as soon as you begin to open up the secret, the very explanation is itself a new secret, which is like it reminds me of Descartes or Foucault or one of these kind of, I don't know, deconstructionist theories of like in the deconstruction itself is the deconstruction of the deconstruction. Some whole like
Jacques Derrida.
Jacques Derrida. Isn't he the best?
He's fantastic.
Jacques Derrida, that guy, I think all of his stuff is just flirtatious stuff.
He's just dissolving language for the fun of it.
Oh yeah, he's amazing. That guy is just amazing. That's him, right?
I mean, he's serious or he's just playing games?
Oh,
Both.
he's serious and he's just playing games. It's hard to know whether this is
What's
fun for him or
what's more fascinating about Derrida is the people who are students of Derrida are really very interesting people. I had a law professor who was a Derridaist.
yeah.
He was quite a character.
Well, right now his stuff is almost semi-prophetic with the kind of, the type of deconstructions that are happening in the political sphere and so on, and
Yeah, he was talking about the idea of truth like falling apart, and now here we are like watching it happen.
yeah.
I thought you were going to go somewhere else with the way, like, contrary to the way the Gemara refers to it, it talks about like you're distant from your request being fulfilled. Maybe this is too basic, but maybe the explanation of prayer and response is that when God responds to us, it's transportative. It's not that, in other words, let's say the CEO gives you a promotion. He says, continue working from your office, but add something to your bailiwick, right? Do something to your portfolio of work. That's not how God responds to our prayers. What he does is he moves you to a new position entirely, and maybe there are new challenges, roles and responsibilities, etc., in that new space, so to speak. So if you examine your own space, so to speak, you examine the prayer from where you are, you've missed the entire boat. And so then it's the way it responds to that. It says, well, you're very far away. It's like a spatial chasm between you and actually receiving the true response of what prayer is able to create. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I hear you. I think there's like what you're saying also kind of is similar to like these from a more emotional thing. On the face value, the Zohar is talking about speculation and looking in terms of like the chagiga stuff. But in another level, an emotional level, it's like the great Baal Shem Tov said, those who find God are miserable, though those who look for God are happy. You know what I mean? Like the people I really can't stand are the people who have like this God is this, like it's not just that they know
Well,
God.
to some extent, but also you're
like
dumb.
how much they know and how wrong they are at the same time are somehow linked together. Like they know so much and they absolutely know like real. I don't believe everyone knows zero. These people know so much less than zero. Like, so that's what it's saying. Like those who know absolutely know nothing. Those who like it's those who have found God are absolutely distant from him. Like it's this. Yossi, you're with me, baby Yossi. You hear me?
Yeah, well, I wanted to talk about the issue here of efficacy. Recently, on some rabbi chat, somebody was going on about he believed in the efficacy of prayer, but he didn't believe in magical thinking. Okay, and so as if I was wondering, he never said, what is the efficacy of prayer? It's efficacy of prayer. We need time to talk to ourselves. We don't talk to ourselves enough. So it gives us a chance to talk to ourselves because there isn't anybody to talk to. So we talk to ourselves. I mean, and it's also the problem with putting the money in the vending machine and expecting, okay, it says $1.75, put $1.75 in, push the button, machine, the Coke can comes out. And it's like, no, it's not that. But it's about this mystery, this idea. By the time we get to the Amida in the morning prayer service, we've actually gotten into the presence. And maybe
I hate to interrupt, but I just have to run to Mariv. But
I'll see you there. Zach.
I have to go in a minute too for the same reason.
glad to have seen you all. Thank you.
I
Yeah.
set this up to be in Shul, so I could make Myra, but yeah, because of that, I get to stay on the next 8 minutes.
They're going to shame you, Rabbi. Right?
Take care, guys.
Isn't the efficacy of prayer the same as the what the vaccine is creating versus what we should have cellularly? Prayer is creating in sort of a proxy vaccine what we ought to have gotten from, let's say, the Garden of Eden. We would have had that connection to God, and now through prayer we perhaps achieve that. So it's some sort of artifice. Since that's the typical usage of efficacy these days. That's the only time that word is used these days. Full trial to, will it be efficacious or not? No, I don't know, but in a way that's what the prayer is enabling us to do, to get externally, exogenously, and internalize that connection to the essence that we would have had in a utopian, Gan Eden type world.
The interesting thing is, Ben, that I mean, my particular take on this, because I kind of think about this kind of way too many hours during the day, but the Rambam says that we move from sacrifice to prayer to meditation, right? And on the meditation side, going back to those 4 rabbis who entered Pardes, they did it through some meditative state. Okay, they fasted for 4 days, and they basically put their legs between their knees and whatever, and they sat in a position. Apparently, in the Knesset, there's some sculpture with that likeness put in there. And it's funny, and it's taken us 2,000 years to actually come round, and it's just beginning to where this whole prayer thing is morphing into a more contemplative, a more meditative type of approach, which the rabbis certainly, meaning Naphtali, is certainly sort of embracing a little bit, but I think it's a way of how we ourselves are evolving.
Yeah, interesting.
Just those 4 rabbis, in the early days, and this is so much for Rambam not being a mystic, because his son Rav Abraham, who was the chief rabbi of Cairo or whatever, was a great proponent of meditation. And if meditation isn't about mysticism, it's certainly the parking space right next door.
I by the way, I'm one of the people that believe that Maimonides was a huge meditator, and that he could have been a mystic, but not the mystic in the Kabbalistic sense of a mystic, meaning he had his own mysticism, and it's pretty much spelled out to some degree, even though he says it's a secret and he's not really going to say the truth of what he really feels in his Guide to the Perplexed. And also my understanding on his genius level of how he was able to do what he did is that he would just like delve into the essence of the thing till like all of the Talmud was just like shining, not so much how much is in it, but like everything lined up, every Mishnah, Bavli, Yerushalmi, like till it was just like that and one subject, so that he could just like pull out the DNA of it. And obviously he had to know everything by heart and all that, but he meditated onto the essence. That's why like the Brisker Derech, which is now like kind of this exact way of analyzing a text in a very contemporary, almost modern way, almost like a rationalist way, is so heavily focused on Maimonides because it's the way he came up with it. The way he came up with it was this contemplative way that he was a meditator, and but more of a contemplative meditator on ideas that then he saw them all the way through from the halacha and their interrelatedness to all of other halachas. That's why he wrote the whole. He was the tamim that we were talking about, or the tam. He saw the wholeness of Torah. He's the first one to write a commentary of halacha on the entire Torah, right? Not just like the Tur or the Rush or the Rif, the all the other commentaries that either wrote on the Gemara, like the Rif and the Rush, or on what later would become the four that which preceded the four Chalkei Shulchan Aruch, the Tur, which is the forerunner, what the Beis Yosef wrote supposedly as a commentary. It's much more than a commentary on the Tur, and then the Beis Yosef wrote his Shulchan Aruch based on that. But that's not called Torah Kula. That's just the four what we call the Dal Chalkei Shulchan Aruch based on the four Arba Turim. So that has to do with contemplation. But getting back to what you guys were all talking about, because I am going to have to go to Meyer now, is that for sure the tefillah, and I'll just say this in the name of Rabbi Moshe Cordovero, whose yahrzeit we just completed, is Rabbi Moshe Cordovero explains
and my mother
and
David,
David,
and that's why I was late.
What's your mother's name?
Geula bat Yitzhak El Hanan.
In the memory of Geula bat Yitzhak El Hanan. That's a cool. Both names, your mother and your grandfather, very cool. Her neshama should have an aliyah. Rabbi Moshe Cordovero explains that what we're learning about when we learn all this sefirot, the Seder Hishtalshelut, this kind of order of the descent of the Orot and the Kalim, is not just that this is the way that God created the world through the Dalet Olamot, the Sefirot, all that, is that by doing that, what we're actually doing is we're also learning how to get back. And then once you get back, you learn how to get back again, and back and forth. The idea of the B'dmuso, B'tsalmo, Kidmusenu, the image and likeliness of the divine in us, which are the 10 Sefirot, according to the Zohar and the Kabbalah, is so that when we do tefillah, we rectify the tikkun of the neshama by being Mila the neshama back to its source. So, but there's certain places we don't go. There's certain places of certain ways of going in and out, and other ways that we just don't go through those things. So when it's saying whoever speculates upon his prayer and considers it far from his way, is considered far from his wish that he sought, either it's because, for example, sephirotically, he's in the klipa, he's in the chitzoniut. He's not where he should be, or she should be. The Ishbitz explains a lot of that. The Ishbitz has I want to write a little bit one day about tefillah and Ishbitz. I started something on it. I don't know if I'm a very bad writer. I write for a little bit and then I just forget all about it. But there's something I was working on, and maybe I'll get back to this idea of what tefillah really is in Ishbitz. The nutshell is you're davening to know what you really should be davening for. So, read that Zohar with that Ishbitzer in mind, meaning, who am I to daven for this? I see this pretty girl, I'm davening, she should fall in love with me. Like, is she my soulmate or not? Like that's not how it works. Like, is this really the right tikkun for me? If they're not the right tikkun, it doesn't matter how pretty they look or whatever it is. It doesn't matter. Is this what God wants from me? So what I'm praying is, God, is this what you want from me? Not, God, this is what I want. Now, the problem is sometimes you want what you want. You don't want to hear what God wants. Okay, that's what the Zohar is talking about. Sometimes what you want isn't what you're going to get, because that's not what the prayer is about. Anyway, thank you guys.
That's an explanation of this also. It's like, don't focus so much on the specifics of your request, because you may be getting it wrong. The main thing is, on a macro level, your prayer, if you did it correctly, will be responded to and will be rewritten by God. That's right. He'll figure out what you really should want, and will really give you that.
And that's where I agree. I'm not into magical thinking, but I'm into prayer. I don't think most of these people who say they're not into magical thinking, they have no idea. I'm sorry, Yossi, I don't know who that friend of yours is. Maybe I'm wrong.
He's not
99% of the people who say they're not into magical thinking when it comes to prayer, they're just, I hate to say it, they're not Amaratzim. Some of them are very learned. They just never really got into this type. They never got into Ishbitz. They never got into.
Oh no, yeah, it very clearly, yeah.
And that's it, and that's their loss.
Yeah, I think the thing to follow up on that last comment is that it's about tuning. If God is the tuning fork, okay, then what we have to do is to tune ourselves to that melody, if you want. You know, if we're if we are not in line with that tuning fork, then how can we resonate with that?
Yeah. We gotta have a tuner. So thank you, Yossi.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
And David.
Thank you, Reverend Natali.
Thank you.
And
Have a
what
good night.
pages, just very quickly, because I was here late, what pages did we complete this today?
70, 71, 72, 73, 74, 75. Actually started 71.
Okay, thank you.
76. Yeah.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good
Thank
night.
you.
Night.
Good night. Take care.
Night.
Okay, bye-bye.